Hello, welcome to Mentoring with the Masters. In this second video of a three-part family law series, Rebecca Palmer is going to be speaking with you about equitable distribution. Rebecca heads the marital and family law practice at Lowndes, Drosdick, Doster, Kantor Reed. You may even recognize Rebecca as part of the legal team that represented Ellen Nordegren in her divorce from Tiger Woods. I hope you enjoy the video.
Thank you for clicking on to watch this video. I'm going to walk you through some family law issues. Specifically, I'm doing a series of 3 videos. The first one was parenting. I'm now going to work on equitable distribution. It's important to go in that order because you go in the acronym of PEACE: parenting, equitable distribution, alimony, child support, then everything else like attorney's fees and the like. The reason you go in that order because each one of those beforehand affects the next. So let's talk about equitable distribution. Equitable distribution is a fancy phrase for dividing everything, dividing the assets, dividing the debts. So what do you do when you approach equitable distribution? The first thing that you need to do is determine, is the asset or the debt marital or non-marital? That's a good way to start and an important place to start. That seems like, well, that's got to be easy to decide. You'd be surprised. Sometimes it's not. In looking and making a determination, you have to look at various things. For example, you have to decide what was the cutoff date. Was it the date of separation? Was it the date of filing, which is most common? Or is the date that is agreed upon? Because the court can look at that equitably and make a decision what date is used for purposes of making certain decisions, and particularly as to value. So first look at that. And the normal date that is concerned is the date of filing. So commonly looked at is what was the date of filing for purposes of deciding was it premarital, therefore non-marital, or was the asset or debt incurred after the marriage, during the marriage, but before the filing of the divorce. That's an easy way to be looking at it is it marital right off the bat. There are some nuances there, of course. Like, for example, was there an inheritance? If there was an inheritance, was it kept clean, i.e. not commingled? If there was an inheritance put away, for example, in a specific trust for that individual, never touched, never used, it's non-marital, even if it was earned during the marriage. So that's something you have to look at. So again, step 1, determine, is it marital or non-marital? Step 2, determine the value. Also seems easy. Look at a piece of paper, what's it worth? Not so easy. A value can be really disputed. For example, even something as simple as a house. I also serve as a mediator as well as a family lawyer, and I mediated a case yesterday, and a tremendous difference in the value of the house. So you have to make those determinations. Many ways to do that. For the house, for example, you can have an appraisal done. If you have an appraisal done, try to get the other side to buy into the appraiser. Otherwise, if they don't, and you get an appraisal back they don't buy into, they're going to fight it. That being said, however, if you want to get an appraisal for purpose of work product and maybe never use it, that's a different issue. Then you may want to hire your own appraiser just to see ballpark what is the number. These days, I quite frankly rely on a lot of realtor friends of mine and have CMAs done. That's a comparative market analysis. Most realtors can do this. In fact, probably all of them can. You hop on their computer and they look at it and they look at all the sales and what's for sale in the neighborhood and make a comparative market analysis and recommend either a price or a range of a price. That can be very helpful. Sometimes I find that almost as valuable as an appraisal, not for court necessarily, unless you want that realtor to testify. You might want an appraisal for court, but it's very effective, I find, and certainly in the mediation and potentially court scenarios. Other individuals that you can look to when you are looking at valuations, you may have to have an expert do a forensic accounting. Now that could be all sorts of things. Someone could be hiding money, so you have to look at the various bank accounts and income that was earned to try to find out where is the money, are the numbers we are talking about even accurate? A forensic accountant can also be hired for what's called a business evaluation. A business evaluation is where they go in and look at the books, look at potentially the materials that the company has, and then makes a determination of what the value of the company is. That is very important, whether it be for settlement or for litigation. If you have a company and you have no idea what it's worth, that forensic accountant can help you. It's good when you're looking at a forensic accountant to find someone very reputable. You want somebody who's going to do well on the stand and someone who people believe in, that knows they're not going to fudge the numbers one way or another, someone that's trusted and has the right accolades, because you want them ultimately be deemed as an expert as the court. You're going to want to make sure they're qualified. So, that being said, you might want to stipulate to one expert, again, strategic decision. Some people choose not to ever stipulate to an expert because they want to directly and only talk to their experts, whereas the other side may have their own, and of course we've all heard battle of the experts at that point in time. And sometimes that is necessary. As I mentioned in the parenting video, make sure, however, whatever you give physically to the expert is evidence. People forget that. Also, another thing that is considered when looking at various assets in a case is people think things are worth more than they are at times. That comes very true when you talk about, for example, furniture. People think, oh my gosh, my dining room table is so fancy. I bought it 20 years ago for 10 grand and it's beautiful. Well, if it's not an antique and you've had it that long, guess what? Not worth much. So you've got to talk your clients kind of off a ledge when they think, oh, but she got or he got this amazing chair that we've had. Well, is it signed by somebody? Is it really special? Is it antique? Because really you're kind of looking at what could you get for it. That's important in jewelry too. A lot of people say, well, I've had this insured for this amount. This was a expensive ring or watch or necklace or earrings or whatever. And the reality is, if you have an insurance price, it's probably inflated. That's not necessarily what you can go and get for it. So think about that, and you have to talk to your clients. If they come in, unless they're an incredibly wealthy couple with $250,000 worth of furniture, it's probably not accurate. So take a look at those things when you're determining the value. When you're looking at equitable distribution, I also encourage everybody to think very creatively. It's not equal distribution, it's equitable distribution. And what that means at the end of the day, to try to be fair. Yes, that often is equal 50-50, and you're looking at that. A common way to do that is put husband on one side, wife on the other side, identify non-marital marital assets, and then list them. And see at the end of the day, does someone owe somebody money because they got more? So you kind of weigh that and look at that in the equitable distribution. At times, though, you may have other disputes, and there may be reasons why someone says, look, I will give them more of this if I can just get done with this divorce, or whatever the issue may be. I'll give them a larger package in an item if I can negotiate something else. So consider that too. Don't always think it just 50-50, that's it, not moving off it, because at times it makes sense to do something a little creative and differently. Also make sure you're comparing apples to apples, not apples to oranges. Sometimes people will make the mistake of going through their equitable distribution worksheet, that's a good basic chart of laying out all the assets and debts, what's marital, what's non-marital, and then dividing up between husband and wife. And often what people do at that point in time is they are comparing apples to oranges. What does that mean? That means, for example, they say, okay, well, I'm going to get my client $100,000 in cash, and your client can have $100,000 in a 401k. That is an example of an apple and an orange. The reason why is cash is worth more. You can go spend it right now. It's not going to be taxed, whereas there's penalties and issues associated for drawing the money from the 401k. So when doing the equitable distribution, make sure to consider tax consequences and walking through that. I think it's always good to have a good accountant friend or someone as well who can help you with those issues, because sometimes you have to consider the tax brackets of the individuals and some of the information. We as family lawyers don't necessarily know all the tax laws, so it's good to have someone that you can rely on and talk to about that. It's important as well to do equitable distribution before looking at alimony. The reason why is someone may end up with a lot of cash or money. And if that is true, and then you move on to the next issue, which is alimony, you need to see what type of interest could this person earn on all that cash without invading the principal. So if they have a large amount of money, they're sitting there and they were awarded or negotiated during the time period of equitable distribution, the question becomes, at the end of the day, does that change their need or their ability to pay? Same thing goes with debt. If one party walks away with significant debt that they are gonna have to pay and not able to walk away with or discharge, then you gotta consider that. both in need and ability to pay when you get to alimony. That in a nutshell is equitable distribution. Thank you for watching the video.